that wants to speak, there's a sign-up sheet right over there in the corner. Make sure that you sign up in order to speak. And just so everyone's aware, it's 5 minutes per person, and Beth will be keeping time, and then she has a 30-second that will come up when you're at the 30-second mark. So with that, we'll start this meeting at 7 o'clock. Everyone is in attendance except for Robert this evening, and he had a conflict but might be here in a little while. The newly elected board members, which are myself and Sarah Wedwick, completed the oath of office after the April 1st election. The new term officially starts on the 4th Monday of April, which is today, Monday, April 12th. So welcome, Sarah, to the board, and here you go. All board members are not typically this well attended, so welcome to the board. Pledge of Allegiance, and the flag is up behind you.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On this occasion, Viroqua area schools will nurture excellence, unlock potential, and ignite passion. Tonight, we have Bren Swenson here. She's going to give a student activities and academic report. Welcome, Bren. Come this way. We do not fight.
Hello, my name is Bren Swenson, and I'm a senior here at Viroqua High School. My future plans are to attend Western Technical College in VAS and study in mechanical design. I'm also going to play on their volleyball team there. Some of my favorite classes at Viroqua High School, I would say, are the tech ed classes, as well as just science classes. I enjoy yearbook, woods, environmental science, and animal science. Activities I am in, I was on the varsity volleyball team this fall, and I was the captain. Our record was 23-10, and I got my second first team conference. And I was recently elected for the Viroqua Female Scholar Athlete Award. I also have 7 varsity letters in volleyball, softball, and powerlifting. I am also a current member of the Viroqua FFA and National Honor Society. Items coming up. For FFA, we are opening the greenhouse. I'm also in our greenhouse class, and we have a bunch of flowers and vegetables we're selling. I think it's pretty cool because we've learned about like all the fertilizers and insecticides, and now we're getting to be able to sell these plants to our community. And then for NHS, we have a 5K that we're planning coming up this spring, and it's our first time doing it, and I think it'll be a good fundraiser.
Any questions for Bren?
I just want to say congratulations. I saw the post. You signed your letter of intent with Western for volleyball, and that'll be great to be able to continue that
It's exciting.
on the volleyball court. That's exciting.
Okay.
Robert? Yes. Are there any other questions? Are there any other questions, Bren? How many days left?
16.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming. If there's ever anything that we can do to be of assistance, we're here for you. And it's very nice to have students come this late in the school year, because sometimes it's a little difficult to have students come at this time because of different activities. But your experience here was good. Good luck. And
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is Spotlight on Education, and we have the Ames Children's House teacher, Faith. Hi, Faith.
Hi.
You have the good fortune of having today.
Oh, I know. Just get to do the fun, share my screen. So this is a short and sweet introduction to the Montessori School's Children's House, which is 4K and kindergarten. Children's House is typically 3 years to 6 years, but because we're a public charter school, I just get 2 lovely age levels. So what we're gonna be talking about today is just the primary areas of the Children's House classroom, which is practical life, sensorial, language, mathematics, and cultural. So you get all of the wonderful areas in the school system in the classroom divided into areas that children can access on shelves. One thing that I love about Montessori is that each skill the child learns in the Children's House gets fostered not only throughout the Montessori program all the way up until 8th grade now, but it's also well after they leave through a variety of our high school classes. The Montessori method relies on repetition and following the child, and I just find it absolutely wonderful that our school system as a whole helps the students keep these skills as they learn as 4-year-olds, which you will be able to see through pictures later, through the choices available to them through electives and required classes that we have currently. So first, the practical life area, which includes all life skills to help develop independence, coordination, concentration, self-control, self-awareness, and confidence. Some of those areas include care of self, which is taking care of themselves, putting on backpacks, zipping clothes, tying shoes, also making food, mending things. One of my favorite lessons to teach is sewing. I almost threw a video on here and I didn't. Then there is also care of the environment. They learn how to screw and unscrew things. They clean up after themselves. I use I don't want more mice in my classroom as an incentive. They learn to make the classroom beautiful through flower arranging. They take care of laundry. It's wonderful to see these little worker bees work. There's also control of movement. So they work on those fine motor skills through pouring, tweezing, rolling, cutting, walking. Then they get those fine motor and then gross motor skills, walking with different balancing activities and even yoga. We sometimes have people come in, which is so fun. There is also grace and courtesy, which is basically manners, just said in a fancy way. So my favorite thing here is the peace rose. The kids who have an argument take it upon themselves to grab a rose and have a conversation with one another to hopefully figure it out by themselves. If not, of course, the adults will step in. So again, all of these skills are fostered through a variety of things within the classroom and they get carried on all the way up through the high school level with classes such as family and consumer sciences and just living life. Next is sensorial. So sensorial activities include the manipulation of specifically designed materials that isolate qualities, refine fine motor skills, visual and auditory senses, and develop coordination and the ability to order and classify. So here are the fine motor things that they do. They are organizing by size, shape, visual cues. So yeah, they're refining their sight, their touch, their auditory skills by listening. What Mr. Burkhalter's son is doing right here is determining what sounds are matching. This way off in the corner, this is all temperature. So they're refining how to be able to not burn themselves. Yeah. What is hot, what is cold, that's good to know. And then language is based on phonetic awareness and the sounds of the letters more so than the names. So they use, early on in the classroom, the children work through specific hands-on tactile language materials such as sandpaper letters and the movable alphabet. Language is not an isolated topic, but it runs through the curriculum. You will see language in all the areas of our classroom. The spoken language is the foundation for writing and then reading, which again builds onto a variety of different classes that they will access throughout their life here. So it starts with just matching sounds, and then later they start building, writing, and reading words through the wonderful work called the movable alphabet. In mathematics, it's developed with the use of concrete learning materials with the sensorial area of beginning preparation. Anybody who has had me as their teacher knows that I will shout from the rooftops. If I had learned math through the Montessori, I would have been in calculus. I was not in calculus, but man, oh man. So again, they start with the more tactile materials. They use things such as the number rods, the spindle boxes, and then later the beads. So they're basically called what they are: rods that correlate to numbers, boxes that will hold spindles that correlate to numbers. And then later it gets more complicated, learning place value and addition at the same time with the wonderful stamp game and the 45 layout, the golden beads, and each exercise builds upon another, and the child gradually moves from concrete to abstract areas such as place value, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and fractions. So here's some more addition with the strip board and the stamp game and the number beads that continue on throughout their Montessori experience. Culture allows a child to explore the natural world around them. Art and music are also considered cultural activities, but are encouraged throughout. So the flags and globes usually mark the geography area inside the classroom. There are puzzle maps and images from materials of other cultures. Each cultural area includes geography, zoology, botany, history, and science, all of which are high school ages as well, so it doesn't leave them as they leave Montessori. Another favorite thing, we got to go visit some cows. That was nice. So, as someone who grew up in the relative city, being able to feed some cows and then get to experience the wonderful egg day with the egg teacher, that was a lot of fun for the kids. We love to spend time in nature at the KVR. And this is it. Thank you for having me. Do you have any questions?
So how many students are currently enrolled in your classes?
So we cap at 16. I have 15 and Kelsey has 16. So therefore the math, I believe. Again, I didn't have the Montessori math. 31. And we have that cap because we start with 2 age levels, and then in E2 and E3, we go up to 3 grade levels, and then back, E1 and E2, and then in adolescent, we go back to 2 grade levels, 7 and 8. So that Miss Erica doesn't get overwhelmed with a gazillion 7th and 8th graders.
Any other questions? Thank you for the great work you do. Just absolutely fabulous, and those kids couldn't look any happier in those pictures.
Thank you for letting me share my students with you,
Well,
because
thanks for bringing. I believe Robert was on virtually, and now I don't see him. I know he's traveling from a meeting, so he might have gotten kicked out, so I'm guessing he will be back. The next item is election of officers. The board will be electing president, vice president, clerk, and treasurer. The past president will run the meeting until the election of a new president. When the election of a new president is completed, the individual elected president will run the remainder of the meeting. All nominations require a second. Each board member can make no more than 1 nomination or 1 second for each position. If a board member's nomination does not receive a second, that board member may make another nomination or second. So president, is there a nomination for president of the Viroqua Area School Board?
I nominate Angie Lawrence as president of the Viroqua School Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any other nominations? All Alrighty.
I
Is,
move to close the nominations and elect Angie Lawrence as president of the Viroqua School Board.
all right, and then we need a second.
Second.
And then we need a roll call vote. So Dana,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
I abstain, Kim,
Yes.
Robert is not on, Matt,
Yes.
and Sarah.
Yes.
All right, and then I do accept the position and I thank you for the honor of being in this position. So thank you all. And then the next item is vice president. Is there a nomination and second for vice president of the Viroqua School Board?
I nominate Vicky Kappa as vice president of the Viroqua School Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there
Dana.
another nomination? Okay, with that, is there a motion to close the nominations and elect Vicky Kappa as vice president of the Viroqua School Board?
I'll move to close the nomination and elect Vicky as vice president of the Viroqua School Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, and then this is also a roll call vote, so we'll continue with the same path. Dana,
Yes.
Vicky,
Abstain.
yes, it's me, Kim,
Yes.
Robert is still not on board, Matt,
Yes.
and Sarah.
Yes.
All right, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
The next item is clerk.
I nominate Dana as clerk of the Viroqua School Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there another nomination? With that is,
I move to close the nominations and elect Dana as clerk of the Viroqua School Board.
is there a second?
Second.
We'll go backwards here for roll call. Sarah,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
I vote aye. Vicky,
Yes.
and Dana.
Abstain.
Thank you. Do you accept the position?
I do accept the position as the clerk.
The next item is treasurer.
I nominate Matt Tubin as treasurer of the Viroqua School Board.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Is there another nomination?
I move to close nominations and elect Matt Tubin as treasurer of the Viroqua School Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
A roll call vote. Sarah,
Yes.
Matt,
Abstain.
wasn't Kim, I, Vicky,
Yes.
and Dana.
Yes.
Do you accept the position?
Yes.
The next item is the WSB delegate at State Convention and alternate delegate. Before we go forward, the event is January 21st through the 23rd of 2026. So I just want to make sure that someone is available for that position. So do we have a nomination?
I nominate Sarah Woodwick as the delegate and Dina Holfelder as the alternate delegate to the 2026 WASB convention.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is that something that works with your schedules?
Mine's fine, as long as I don't get sick.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
And this is something we usually put the newest board member in because it's a very nice way of learning about state policy and different topics that school districts are interested in across the state. And hopefully it will be a kind and gentler nation when you go to that event. Sometimes it cannot be. And so with that, we only need to all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do you accept that position, each of you?
Yes.
Yes. Alrighty. The next item is the CISA 4 rep to the annual meeting, and that is on June 4th at 2025 at 6:30 p.m. at the CISA 4 office in West Salem. So I want everyone to be aware of that. Is there a nomination?
Nominate Kim Little as the CISA representative for Board of Control's annual meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Does that date work for you, Kim?
Already on my calendar.
All right. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do you accept the position?
Yeah.
Yes, it sounds like you do. All right, the next item is the budget hearing annual meeting. And the past few years, the budget hearing annual meeting has been for the regular September meeting. The regular September board meeting falls on Monday, September 15th of 2025.
I move to approve that the budget hearing annual meeting be held on September 15th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Opposed? Carries. Committee appointments. So, Budget and Finance, we have Matt Chukin being chair, myself is on that committee, Kim Little. Curriculum, we have Vicki Kappa chair, myself and Sarah Wedwick. Policy, we have Dana Holfelter as chair, Sarah Wedwick and Robert Nye. Compensation, Kim Little is chair, Vicki Kappa and Matt Tubin. Building and Grounds, Robert Nye is chair, myself and Dana Holfelter. Does anybody have anything in there that you would like to be different than how it was read?
I move to approve the board committee appointments as recommended.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor vote by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. The next we have the committee reports. We have compensation. Kim?
There is no committee report because the entire meeting was in closed session.
Policy, Dana?
We ready?
I'm ready. Let us have it.
Okay, today for approval, legal updates. We have new policy 5411, third grade promotion and retention for at-risk students. In 2023, Wisconsin enacted Act 20 to strengthen early literacy efforts. As part of the law, school districts must implement the policy for promoting students from third to fourth grade, following the model provided by the Department of Public Instruction. YOLA, with legal guidance, has developed a policy in compliance with Act 20 and the DPI model. While districts are required to adopt this policy by July 1st of 2025, enforcement can be delayed until September 1st of 2027. So that won't go in effect, but may be used in the meantime. Revised, we have policy, these are all revised, so if I don't say that, just be aware that these are all revised. With policy 1241, non-renewal or termination of a district administrator's contract. This policy has been modified to incorporate language consistent with a non-renewal statute. Policy 2210, curriculum development, has been revised. This policy has been revised to remove language that is part of the education outcome goals and expectations included in section 118.01 of the Wisconsin Statutes Act, the curriculum standards as outlined in PI 8 of the Administrative Code. The appropriate language is included in policy 2130, which is educational outcome goals and expectations. Policy 2270 is religion in the curriculum. This policy is revised to add legal citations at the end and to reflect the annual notice requirements in the law. Policy 2271.01, Starting College Now program, has been revised. The policy is updated to reflect that in addition to any tuition costs, the law requires that the district pay the cost of course fees and books to the same extent that a student who is attending a technical college and who is resident of this state would be charged. A revision of policy 2464, advanced learning instruction, also known as gifted and talented. This policy includes new provisions based on state-based statutory language and administrative regulations from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. The policy was developed with the assistance of the Wisconsin Association for Talented and Gifted. A revision to policy 4124, notice of reasonable assurance of employment. This policy has been modified to be more consistent with the state statute. Policy 5113, open enrollment program, interdistrict. This policy is revised to incorporate verbiage regarding requirements to review a special education student IEP to determine both space and service availability. A revision to policy 5330, administration of medical and emergency care. This policy option is added to pursuant to the 2023 Wisconsin Act 195, which permits a school to develop a plan to have available use of, how do you pronounce that? Bronchial dilator,
Bronchial dilation.
which is
Good job.
a
It's an inhaler.
inhaler, thank you. Provided the prescription to the school. Doing this is voluntary, but provides the ability to protect students with severe asthma. Administration of the inhaler by school staff to a student must be consistent with the plan, and involves staff training, and administered only to students who have a prescription for their use. Which this policy, policy 5341, which is an emergency medical authorization policy, is actually being rescinded to be incorporated into this policy I just read. The policy is rescinded because its contents are fully incorporated in policy 5330. Policy 7430, safety standards. The policy has been revised to clarify what information is required to be reported to the board. Policy 7540.03, student technology, acceptable use and safety, and policy 7540.04, staff technology, acceptable use and safety. These policies are updated to reflect new requirements by the FCC in a district's acceptable use of this policy. And the following policies: 3440, job-related expenses; 6110, grant funds; policy 6112, cash management of grants; policy 6114, cost principles, spending federal funds; policy 6325, procurement, federal grants and funds; policy 7310, disposition of personal property; and policy 7450, of property inventory, have been updated to and adjusted in response to the Uniform Grant Guidance Regulations. The first reading of these policies is today. Approval for the following policies is May 19th, 2025. We have revised policies. Policy 1100, district organization. The policy has been clarified, and previous optional language regarding consultants have been moved to the policy in 125 consultants. Policy 1130, 3230, and 4230, ethics and conflict of interest. These policies have been revised for consistency, incorporating restrictions on the supervision of a relative, and includes options involving outside employment or consulting. Policy 2416, student privacy and parental access to information. This policy is updated to improve the arrangement of policy provisions to a more user-friendly and updated parental notification requirements. Policy 3214 and 4214, staff gifts. This policy has been updated and restructured to present the more common scenarios involving gifts to and from our staff. Policy 3281 is personal property of staff members. Language has been added to this policy authorizing administration to require removal of inappropriate personal property from district premises. Policy 5512, the use of tobacco and nicotine by students. This policy revisions are offered in consultation with the representatives from the American Lung Association to provide options for incorporating smoking cessation programs into the student intervention process, as opposed to strictly punitive measures. Also added in a more descriptive policy position to promote respect for Native American ceremonial tobacco use. Policy 6231, budget implementation. This policy is revised to clarify language regarding fund balance expenditures consistent with current practices. Policy 6235 is fund balance. This policy is updated to include additional rationale and options for a district's management of fund balances. Policy 6620 is the petty cash policy. It has been updated to simplified to provide an option for petty cash fund limits. Policy 7410 is maintenance. Terminology in this policy has been updated and clarified. Policy 7440, facility security. The revisions to this policy clarify law enforcement contact on the school premise. Policy 7540.07, district issued student email accounts. This policy is revised to include optional language regarding the use of a district issued email address and other media accounts. On other media accounts. Policy 8120 for volunteers. This policy is revised to clarify options regarding volunteer background checks and statutory requirements to conduct background checks On-board members who volunteer. Policy 8305, information security. This policy revision provides cross-references to related policies and includes additional language regarding limitations on the public discussion of cybersecurity measures. Policy 8395, student mental and physical health services. This policy is revised to reflect the provision of both mental and physical health services in school through school resources, i.e. student services, guidance services, and school nursing services. The policy is also updated to better reflect the option for arrangements on the on-site health services provided by outside agencies, either in person or virtually, as supplementary to services provided by school staff. Policy 8531 is free and reduced price meals. Policy revision is provided to allow for circumstances where a district may have one or more of the schools qualified for CEP programs, but others do not. By incorporating the CEP option as part of the general policy language, the policy will not need to be updated in the event a district school or school becomes eligible. Policy 8600, transportation. This policy revision clarifies the transportation obligations for a student with a disability as defined in their individualized education program. We will be rescinding the policy 5611 due to process rights. This policy is rescinded because its contents already included in a more applicable policy 5610, suspension and expulsion. Rescinding this policy does not diminish any student's rights, but rather eliminates the potential for two separate policies to become inconsistent over time, and as a result impair students and school officials' efforts to apply student and parental rights associated with the disciplinary process. And policy 5710, student complaints. The policy is rescinded to avoid confusion regarding sources of student opportunities to raise concerns or complaints through appropriate channels. The concept of the student participation in improving the educational environment is important. This policy identifies these sources, but inadvertently creates the impression of a separate complaint procedure created by the policy. Policy 9130, public requests, suggestions, or complaints is the comprehensive policy for addressing any issues not addressed by another specific policy, such as non-discriminatory or harassment, among others. Similar to the rescission of policy 5611, due to process rights, the policy serves to create possible confusion as to the proper procedure to follow in the event of a student complaint. Such confusion reduces the student's access to consistent, predictable procedures for an address to address any complaints. That looks like that's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions for Dana? I'll go back to the first one. That was awesome, so thank you for that. Thank you for your committee to gather all that information. Presented to you. The next item, there have been some concerns brought forward about item number 16 on the agenda. Once we enter closed session, we as a board will not be able to discuss any items that are shared in closed session, just like any other closed session that we do. The board has requested that Tom share some information in regard to state statute requirements and data utilized in reference to agenda item 16.
All right. Yeah, so one is essentially moving some of the conversation that we would have in closed to open, because we knew there was going to be a lot of questions about these recommendations and why they're being made. Obviously, again, and what you said, the board cannot comment. Even if you have extended questions afterwards, you know, I would recommend that those happen in the closed session. But I want to talk through the decision-making process, and then also talk through what this means and what this doesn't mean, if that's important. What I won't use is names or talk about what specific programs these are, and that's intentional. And so I just want to talk through the purpose of the recommendation, and then talk through the why of the recommendations, and then go forward from there. So later tonight, we will be I will be recommending that we reduce 2 elective staff teaching positions from 1.0 to 0.75 FTE. And I will also be recommending that we move one elective teacher from 0.8 to 1.0 FTE. So there'll be an increase, one elective teacher and a decrease in two within the recommendations that I will be providing. The reasons for this are many, but we will talk through, and I will give you some specifics because I think it's important that everyone is aware of why decisions like these, hard decisions, ones we don't want to have to make, have to be made sometimes. And so essentially the preliminary basis for this with any electives classes is due to enrollment and requests for those classes and those courses. And so again, we have one going from 0.8 to 1.0 due to an increase in those electives over time and those that are requested for next school year. The low elective course signups, we will go through a little bit here, and don't want to get into crazy details or anything like that. And again, this is not to call anyone out. This is a conversation that I think is important that we have right now and in the open. And so we have one particular program that has dropped 41% in enrollment in elective courses since 23-24. So that's last school year. That would include two courses that are signed up with 2 students in them. Another elective that would be requesting moving from 1.0 FTE to 0.75 FTE has had a 39% decrease since 23-24 with classes with the lowest class registered for 6. Now these are registered numbers. That's not saying that they're set in stone. That's not saying they won't go up or down, as they do go up or down. Unfortunately, these are the pieces that we have to make decisions based upon timelines, and we'll talk through what those timelines are and why we're having to make a preliminary decision tonight for a final decision later. And so the pieces there, lots of things contribute to these conversations, including we have a very large senior class that is graduating. It's the largest we've had in many, many years, and that absolutely has an impact on some of these numbers. And I think we also need to have the conversation of this is not the first time that these conversations have happened. We have recently reduced staff. We did so last year on a contract from 1.0 FTE to 0.5 FTE. And we also have reduced significantly the elementary staff to lower enrollment numbers. And so we talk about that. We've lost 4 classroom teachers in the past 5 years. Specifically due to the numbers and the enrollment going down. And so this is, again, not a unique situation. It doesn't mean that we take these conversations or decisions lightly. And while we did just pass an operational referendum, we did so to avoid a couple of things, but for sure to avoid staff cuts of 6 to 10 total staff members. And we talked about that often throughout the process. What that doesn't allow us to do is have a blank check or to run classes at any level. And again, we cannot increase staffing either, even though we have that justification for one of our other electives teachers, because that wouldn't be something in the budget. So, talking through this process, a preliminary notice is just that. It's a preliminary notice, and we have to we give that it is not a final notice, and that does a few things for the board and for the district. Is it protects some it provides the district some flexibility while also complying with state statutes. We'll talk about that in a minute. And if enrollment increases or other staffing opportunities emerge, absolutely the staff members could return to 1.0 FTE. The preliminary notice process is a procedural notice that's required by state statute that preserves the district's option to modify a teacher's contract if needed. And again, issuing a preliminary notice is not a final employment decision. And when we say this process, and I would say that the name of the process also makes it confusing. When we're saying a non-renewal, this is the procedure and the legal procedure to do any reduction in staffing. And so that's, again, I think confusing for a lot of people within that. You have to issue those preliminary notices by April 30th, and then the deadline for final notice is on May 15th. And so essentially, if no preliminary notice is issued, the district must renew that teacher at 1.0 FTE. Again, issuing a preliminary notice provides time for us to monitor enrollment and adjust decisions as needed. Our intention absolutely is to retain high-quality staff, but we also need to balance that with some fiscal responsibility. And again, these are not programs that we want to see go away completely at all. Really, this is just adjusting both up and down to ensure that our staffing reflects the current student interests and the needs that we have. That's where when we make these decisions, they are not made quickly, they are not taken lightly, and they are not fun conversations. And I understand that, and I'm not expecting anybody to be happy about that. That's not my expectation. But my expectation is that, you know, we make recommendations to you guys. You guys will take them and decide what you guys want to do. But this one is one where we go through and we look at those numbers. And again, they can change, and if they change, we will adjust. Nothing more.
All right. With that, we will move forward to public comment. So, as I shared before, Shelley has the good fortune to fly first, and you'll get right over here. Beth has the time limit right here. She'll throw the 30-second time limit up when it's at that point, so you know it's getting close to your 5 minutes being complete. Come this way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But I don't make a mistake. Dear Viroqua School Board, family and consumer education and business education classes have played a crucial role in shaping my children into the capable and confident adults they are today. These programs gave my daughter valuable insight into her future career path. Thanks to the skills and knowledge she gained through these classes, she was able to earn multiple scholarships, including the Technical Excellence Scholarship awarded by this very school, which significantly helped her with her college tuition. The impact of these classes started even before my daughter could officially enroll in high school classes. Teachers encouraged and supported her during middle school by helping her make hardtack for the Heritage Fair and inspiring her passion for baking and culinary arts. Their willingness to teach, guide, and nurture her love for the field went beyond what we as parents could provide. For example, I am not a sewer, but these classes helped her learn to sew. My daughter was also allowed the privilege of being youth helping youth student teaching in her FACE classes. She was also allowed to partake in school to work programs where she was able to leave school and work at the Driftless Cafe with Ruthie and Luke Zom. This experience was extremely monumental in her decision to continue in the field that she chose. She was also able to compete in the Skills USA cooking competition through the school. Family and consumer education and business education classes not only taught her practical skills, but also gave her confidence to dream bigger and pursue her passions. We are forever grateful for the lasting influence these classes, teachers, and community members, Mrs. Buss, Mr. Mulvaney, and Luke Zom, have had in her life. These classes have always been loved by many of the students, including all of mine. They recall making treats to sell at the snack bar, dirt cake, the ever-famous weddings, and who could forget their experience of taking care of an egg or a baby doll for a few days. These life lessons have helped shape my children to become parents and hardworking adults with skills that they can use every day. For the sake of future students, I strongly believe it is vital that our school continues to offer family and consumer and business education classes. Very respectfully, myself.
So I also did not mention that the board does not respond to public comment, just so that everybody understands that. And I'd like to request, I understand the passion, but I'd like to request if we did not clap after everyone speaks and clap at the end, if that's acceptable. Thank you.
All right, the next.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is Amber Keenan.
Yeah.
It looks like Shelley.
It looks like Shelley, but it's really Amber, I promise. I am speaking on behalf of my daughter, Amber Keenan. She is in Milwaukee, where she lives currently, and she sent me this and asked me to read this for her. Dear Viroqua School Board, it has come to my attention that there is a proposed budget cut to the Family and Consumer Education, FACE, and Business Education classes. I would be lying if I said this news didn't upset me greatly. My first memories of FACE program at Viroqua go back to elementary school. I remember Mrs. Buss' class caring for younger students to teach practical life lessons through babysitting. Another favorite memory was the bake sale, where students sold items made in their foods and nutrition classes. The project taught students how to run a business, perform quick math, follow sanitation and packaging guidelines, and practice customer service, all while selling to eager classmates. Mrs. Buss left behind a legacy and a program beloved by many students, including myself, who still recall those classes as some of the best moments of high school. Many of my own favorite high school memories were made in Mr. Mulvaney's classroom. He was always there to push me, listen when I struggled, remind me not to be too hard on myself, and help me stay on track. His classroom was a safe haven. I felt welcomed, supported, and heard. He was one of the people who encouraged me to follow my dreams, and he showed me that culinary and baking school was a viable path. Another strong influence was Luke Zahn. He's always been a passionate supporter of young culinarians. When our high school Harvest Challenge team needed a chef mentor, he stepped in. We spent early mornings in the FACE classrooms, planning menus, calculating costs, meeting school and nutrition requirements, and ensuring our meals could be prepped within time limits. He taught us how to use equipment properly, follow safety guidelines, and enjoy the process of creating food that makes a difference. These classes make a significant impact on students' lives. They are often misunderstood, seen as an easy A, just about cooking, cookies, and labeled girly. But in reality, they teach essential life skills. In FACE classes, we learn basics like sewing, cooking, kitchen math, cleaning, laundry, and how to handle common household hazards. Foods and nutrition taught us time management, communication, critical thinking, and the importance of following directions. Food science added deductive reasoning, organization, and creativity. Family living taught us about wedding planning, family dynamics, and childcare, lessons that helped us build trust and open up with peers. It also offered more in-depth information about health and reproduction than our limited freshman health class ever did. Even just one semester in these classes taught more practical life lessons than many core subjects. While geometry, history, and biology are important, none of them prepare students for independent living in the way these classes do. Since graduating from Viroqua High School, I have earned a degree in baking and decorative arts and an associate's degree in culinary arts from Madison College. While student teaching, working full-time, and serving on student boards and honor societies, the skills I gained in FACE classes helped me succeed. I learned communication, time management, and leadership. I have since worked my way up from line cook to kitchen manager to cake decorator, and now I manage a full bakery department for a Wisconsin-owned brand, baking from scratch in-house every day. In my current role, I mentor high school and college students working part-time. It's become clear how crucial these classes are. I've met students who didn't know how to sweep properly, clean dishes, or read cursive. Bright kids who had simply never been taught these things. That's why I make it my mission to teach every associate the skills they need: customer service, problem solving, cleaning, decorating, and more. I want them to leave my bakery more confident and capable than when they came in. This approach to mentorship and leadership was instilled to me by my two biggest career influences, Mr. Mulvaney and Luke Zahn. The FACE program prepared me not just for life, but for leadership with compassion, just as my mentors led me. So I ask you, how can you send kids out into the world without a proper FACE education? Sincerely, Amber Keenan.
Amber, thank you as well. Adam Fogelson.
If you don't know me, my name is Adam Fogelson. I'm a lead teacher and program director, pardon me, at Better Futures High School. I'm also VEA co-president I'm also a citizen. I'm going to read to you something that was on our school website, March 31st. That would be the day before the referendum. There'll be a proposed referendum question for the Viroqua Area School on the ballot Tuesday, April 1st. If this referendum is approved, VAS will be able to maintain programs and services for students, address minor facility needs, and avoid additional staff reductions. And a link. We invite you to learn more, and here's a link. For this to come so closely on the heels of a referendum that passed is not a good look, y'all. It's just not. And maybe there needs to be even more transparency, an explanation that there are laws about this. But this will make it a lot harder to get a referendum passed in 2 years if we cut staff. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
John Mulvaney.
There's a lot of people. I'm used to talking in front of young ones.
Just pretend we're 17.
Easy enough. Okay. For those of you who don't know me, I'm John Mulvaney. I'm the family consumer science here at Viroqua Middle School. I've been here for 11 years. In my time here, I've helped with the community. I've helped cater the community's medieval feast. I've formed bonds with teachers, students, and community members. I've always looked at the district as being supportive of the CTE area. I became an FCS educator because I am passionate about the content I teach. The skills I teach include life skills, caring for oneself and others, saving money by cooking meals at home, budgeting, using everyday math like kitchen math, sequential thinking, and forming and maintaining positive relationships. If this department is cut, it limits the opportunity that these students have to gain these skills. I teach one transcripted credit here with plans to add more. And there are other classes that are currently offered that I am also qualified to teach as well. First, when we look at the numbers, and I passed out the numbers to you that I came up with using my grade book as students I've seen. So they may be skewed somewhat from what you may receive from Tom, but it's also including my resource students too, because if this is cut, those students may be displaced as well. Now, if you do look at those, you will see the numbers for 24, 25, it goes back the last 5 years. There is one exception, the 21, 22 school year, where the numbers were much higher. And that was when we came back from off the modified schedule, which I think parents were just ready to get their kids out of the house again. Okay, so if we look at this, my numbers go from 91 down to 86, and that's just a 5 student decrease. If you flip the page, there are graphs there, you'll see a box. That's showing where my students are for 5 years. And that box is just 5 students. This is not taking into consideration that food science was given to the ag department this year to help boost low numbers. Now, if I teach food science, students will receive a science credit for it because it is crosswalked with the science curriculum. However, this year, those students didn't receive that science credit. Excuse me. Now, I understand this is helpful. We don't want to lose any programs. If we can give classes to teachers who need their boost in numbers, by all means, I think we should.
Teachers all know that our numbers can fluctuate from year to year. It's the nature of how things work in the elective area in a high school. Interests change, their preferences change, and all of those things can have an impact on where students want to be. The cutting of these positions sets a precedent for all elective teachers that if our numbers dip by just 5 to 10 students, our position may be reduced. If this is the case, where we now have a cohesive and unified staff, it may create a sense of competition and infighting for numbers. And if this is how veteran teachers are going to be treated, what's the incentive for the younger generation of educators? Another benefit that I've personally offered the district, aside from my years of service over the last 11 years, is that I've saved the district nearly $250,000 by not taking the provided health insurance. That fact alone would negate the savings to the district by cutting the position of a teacher with equal experience that was hired and another one was hired to replace me. Recently, taxpayers passed a referendum according to the statements the district made to the community to get the referendum passed. They wanted to support educational programs, continue offering robust academic and extracurricular programs, attract and retain quality staff, competitive salaries and benefits, retain dedicated educators and support staff, and maintain class sizes. Holy cow, that's fast. Sheesh. Okay, so another point that needs to be made is that this is not the first time a teacher has had low numbers. Usually a staff would be given extra duties or allowed to pick up classes in another area. In my first years of food science, because of low numbers in another department, I had to team teach so that they could maintain their hours. This year, the food science class, which is offered,
Finish your sentence, please.
I gotta find my sentence. Here, I'll just stop at this. Okay, I'm gonna read you my last sentence. I implore you to make the choice that is best for the students of Viroqua and not make these cuts to these departments because students need these classes to their fullest. Thank you.
I got something for me. I feel like I'm in the class for example.
Heidi, they can't see you on the recording, that's why we want people to stand here
There you go.
and face that way.
Face this way.
Yes,
Yeah.
perfect, that's perfect, thank you.
Heidi Hubach, East 7467, Ship Court, Viroqua, and speak on item number 16. Hello, everyone. I am here tonight to ask you to deny Jason and Tom's recommendation to cut the business education program to 75%. I've been told the reason is due to small numbers for my accounting class, which are very preliminary numbers. Kids are not registered for classes yet. They have not been put into Skyward yet. These are just tallies on a piece of paper of what kids wanted, not what they got. If you're not quite sure how scheduling works, data gets entered into Skyward and not all students get the classes that they signed up for because of the discrepancy between the classes and when they're offered. So therefore, this allows students to sign up for other classes like my accounting class, thus increasing the number of students in my class as time goes on. The main purpose of a school is to teach kids and provide as many opportunities as possible for students in our district. Cutting accounting takes away that opportunity. For example, after speaking to Colton Hogenkamp, he's a 2011 graduate here at Viroqua, he had no idea what accounting was until he took my class. I'd like to read what he sent me in a message about his experience in my accounting class. Quote, I can say for a fact that you and your class are the primary reason I went to UW-Whitewater and pursued a degree in accounting. I didn't really know much of anything about accounting before your class. Also, your class prepared me to be successful in my first accounting class in college because it was pretty much the same material. And look at me now. I've been a CPA for nearly 8 years. I worked in FS audit at PwC, which is one of the big 4 accounting firms, in Milwaukee and Chicago for about 5 years. I then worked in consulting at Siegfried a national accounting and finance consulting firm in New York City for about 4 years. Now I'm working in aviation finance at Apollo, which is one of the largest private equity alternative investment firms in the world in New York City, unquote. I would also like to point out some other Viroqua graduates that have taken accounting and used that experience to be successful in their current careers. Matt, I believe Evan said that Ethan is in auditing at an auditing firm. Another example, my son Evan took all of my classes for college credit. He is now a senior and mainly taking graduate level courses because of all of the college credit he received for my classes. And he will be graduating in May with a degree in accounting. Allison Hardy Sandwick is now the business manager at Kickapoo Area Schools after taking an accounting class. Haley Gillen graduated with a degree in actuarial science, making very good money, both of which took my accounting class in high school. Mason Hopkins and Henry Urch took an accounting class in high school. Both claimed that they would not be able to make it in their accounting class at UW-Madison if it wasn't for taking my class first, which is what I believe that that class does, is give them the confidence to finish accounting in college. And most of these students came from a small accounting class size. Furthermore, I would like to remind you that accounting is a transcripted credit class, and students have left here receiving that college credit to save money. With that said, for decades, we have been finding ways to keep teachers full-time if they don't run a class that has small numbers. We have assigned them additional roles, and we have created other educational opportunities for students to keep those teachers full-time. And I just want to point out a list of options that could keep me full-time. Besides, number one, offering accounting, whether it has 2, whether it has 4, whether it has 8, whether it has 20 kids, especially those that have already expressed interest in going into business-related classes. Number 2, I could teach keyboarding at the elementary level, which is now a skill they have to have for the state test. They have to type a paragraph on the state test, and that has been put on the elementary teachers to teach keyboarding now. So they've got another thing added to their plate besides having to teach how to write a paragraph. Number 3, you can make ACP a required class freshman year like we did back in the early 2000s called School to Work. In this class, this is where they started a career portfolio for graduation. Then for their sophomore, junior, and senior years, their ACP lessons would include updating and finalizing those portfolios. Number 4, I would also like to remind you that I do have my principal's license. So I could take on roles that would utilize that certification to keep me full-time. If this is truly about a class size, then have me do one of these 4 options. If this is more about saving money, there are plenty of other places we can cut so that we don't have to cut opportunities for requiring students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm going to read these use these because I have old eyes. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. And Tom, I also want to thank you for what you shared before public comment. That was very helpful. I'm very grateful for the work that has been done to educate the public about the importance of supporting the operational referendum earlier this month. I heavily promoted the referendum. I voted for it, and I was very excited to see that it had passed. I have come here tonight to express deep concern about the potential reduction or elimination of positions in academic programs for the 2025-26 school year, especially given the touted reasons for the operational referendum. And like our second speaker, I would like to read some quotes directly from the website. In the referendum promotional information that's on the school website. Quote, "We would use these funds to attract and retain quality staff, competitive salaries and benefits, retain dedicated educators and support staff. Based on state funding formulas, an operational referendum is the only option to prevent additional cuts to programming and opportunities for students," end quote. While I realize that the administration has many factors to consider in a school budget, news of cuts to positions and programs after passing this referendum sends a strikingly conflicting message to the public. Trust is already shaken. Social media is riveting with news of these potential cuts. And the public is very angry. When another operational referendum is requested in 2 years, and I'm pretty certain that will happen, I very doubt that the community will support it. It is pretty much guaranteed the community will not support it. Not that I wouldn't want to support it, but because the trust has been damaged. I also realize that there can be no response to public comment during this meeting, but if indeed there are cuts to staff and programs for the next school year, I would hope and strongly encourage that this administration be very clear, open, and transparent with the public regarding the reasons for such decisions. The information that you shared, Tom, in the beginning needs to go to the public at large because people don't understand and they are angry. I am the proud parent of 2 high schoolers in the district. My daughter will be graduating next month, and my son is a sophomore in Laurel. We moved to Viroqua in 2015 when my children were in 1st and 3rd grades respectively. And the Montessori school was in its 2nd year of operation at that time. I do want to just echo what Faith said about math Montessori. I think that it saved my daughter. So I am so very proud to have students that were in Montessori, especially my son. He was among the first class of students in the Montessori adolescent program. I, along with many other parents, worked diligently with students and administrators to advocate for the development of that program. And I also really am grateful for Kim's support for the Montessori school. I am grateful for its success and for all the benefits that my children received from Montessori education. So I urge you tonight to consider thoughtfully how cuts to staff and programs will affect our students, our teachers, our community, and the public's response following passage of the recent operational referendum intended to avoid these cuts. Again, thank you for your time and attention and the opportunity to share my thoughts this evening.
Thank you. Tori Marshall.
Hello. I'd like to speak very briefly about the community's concerns over the district reducing teacher hours that would impact several important programs at our schools, and the importance of the district's reputation. The word of the district has to mean something. The trust of the public, the confidence of teachers and staff, the quality of students' education, and the security of future referendums depend on it. So while I acknowledge that a school district's budget is extremely complicated and messy, meeting our budgetary goals cannot come at the expense of our reputation. When I hear from members of the community that the actions or potential actions of the school district are alarming but not surprising, I also become alarmed. Alarmed that the trust fostered between the district and its community has already been broken. I'm sure everyone present is grateful that the most recent operational referendum passed. But I question whether the district can continue to expect such cooperation from its taxpayers if it continues to break that trust, eventually beyond repair. I believe it would behoove the school board to carefully consider how the budget can be balanced without breaking their word to staff and community. The integrity of the school district should not and cannot be compromised, especially if the district hopes to pass another operational referendum in 2 years and again in future years. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. The next.
Pretty much all the good stuff's been said.
Say it again. Say it again, please.
I'm also disappointed with first referendum failed because Viroqua Area Schools has been supported by our community very, very well. So I was a champion of this referendum. Anybody would ask me about it, explain the difference between the capital referendum and the facilities and the needs of the district. And this I was a CTE teacher for a while, and I understand and have seen ebbs and flows in student numbers. I think it happens everywhere. And it's just the preliminary numbers. Kids sign up for classes in January. So we probably had these numbers before the referendum. So we probably had an idea this could potentially happen before it went to a vote. And it's disconcerting to me that it comes out now. I really think, and like has been said, these are life skill classes, important to kids. And I don't envy the decisions that you guys have to make, not at all. I understand there are hard decisions school boards have to make. But I think a ballpark number is 40 grand is what we're looking to save by cutting it by a quarter each. $40,000 in a $17 million operating referendum number isn't very much. It's 0.235%, by the way. But 17 million is too big of a number for me to understand. So if I put it in my perspective, this isn't me, it's more, administrators, but if you had a $100,000 household that you made 100 grand, 0.235% is $235 a year. That's 85 cents a day. So put in perspective how little money in this size of a budget, 85,000 or that 40,000 savings is. I think there's a spot we could potentially find that and keep teachers in front of students. Thank you.
Thanks, Clay.
Hi. I just want to say it's a tremendous opportunity to be here tonight. I feel so humbled and honored that my name has kind of come up organically in a positive fashion. As a kid from Lafarge, you can't script that any better. Honestly, you never know what you're going to get. I wanted to come here tonight to talk about identity and what it means to kids in a high school forum. When I graduated from Lafarge in 1998, I found myself living in Chicago, and I had a stack of free Organic Valley coupons because my mom worked for the co-op. And for the first time in my life, I got to go into a Whole Foods. I didn't have any other money, but I walked to the back of the cheese aisle and I picked up a piece of cheese from Organic Valley. And for a kid who was completely lost, I understand some of the challenges that our educators face. Kids, when they're going through the high school curriculum, they don't know what they're holding on to yet, what's going to stick, what's going to slide off. I picked up the piece of cheese, and in the back it said Lafarge, Wisconsin. It was my light bulb moment. I knew at that moment that those people making that cheese represented who I was and where I was from. This school district sits as the county seat for the second highest concentration of organic farms in any county in the United States of America. We are considered to be the good food mecca in the United States, and my restaurant, Ruthie and our restaurant, wouldn't be here without that awareness. We've had students, and we continue to have students, not only from Viroqua schools, but from Cashton, from Westby, from Lafarge, come to our restaurant to find a place to connect, to work, and to understand a little bit of the beauty that surrounds them in this place. The idea, when we moved back to open and enroll our kids in Viroqua area schools, was to give them an opportunity that I didn't have in Lafarge. We had family and consumer education, and I studied it, but we wanted our kids to have the full richness of the educational experience here at Viroqua. The idea of moving backwards, the idea of limiting choices. I understand that it's difficult to balance all the moving pieces in an educational district, but I know that there are kids going through family and consumer education and business classes that will find their identity And if we leave classes and teachers subject to the popularity contests of early registration for classes, we may never find out where those kids actually have a place to land. It's about identity and giving them the opportunities in the classrooms to find the things that they connect with the most that make fantastic citizens and, quite frankly, fantastic employees. If push comes to shove, it sounds like I'm going to be hiring out of the Montessori school because all that tactile work and the balance. That's like right up our alley in the restaurant industry. But the hospitality industry represents, seriously, the 4th largest employment sector in the United States. 1 in 10 people are employed in this industry. So to pull back options, to put limitations on what they have the ability to even just be exposed to is truly taking a step in the wrong direction. Thanks for your time. You say Kyle?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I've been attending board meetings off and on for the past several years. Before the last referendum, there was a lot of talk in the board meeting and at the informational meeting, which I attended, about how the operational referendum was to maintain the current level of programming and staffing. As we've discussed, several teachers have been informed that they may be cut to 3/4 time. I understand you have numbers that you have looked at, things like that, but to the rest of this community, that's not maintaining, that's cut. So by cutting the positions from full-time to 3/4 time, you will be pushing these teachers out of the district more than likely. The job market is very strong, and they likely will have no issue finding full-time employment. If my employer told me that I was being cut to 3/4 time, I would immediately start looking for a new job. Myself and many other voters voted in favor and helped pass the referendum. We were told that this would be used to maintain what was already existing. If positions are reduced or cut, we will know that you lied. And the trust in this community, which is already fragile, will be broken. How are we to trust an administration when the next referendum comes around in 2 years? If you have lied, rebuilding that trust will be extremely difficult, if not impossible.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk. I take a little different perspective on this. We just finished a great construction project. Your tech ed program, which I was given a great tour of, is state of the art. Kids are going to learn skills. There's going to be pushing more kids into that tech ed, and that's what industry's looking for. Construction, marketable skills to leave high school and go right into a working career. I think giving them that opportunity and spending $1 million on it, I believe that's an approximate number. And then you send them out into the working world because you've prepared them better, but you've only really half prepared them. Because if they don't have life skills, if they don't have what's available in the programs that I understand are being considered for reduction, or I think you've only done half the job. I think providing the life skills so that a young man that leaves here and goes into perhaps, or a young woman, perhaps a apprenticeship program out in the world, traveling, they're on their own. And if you haven't prepared them or given them the opportunity to learn those life skills here at Viroqua, you've only sent them out half educated. I think it's an important part of building a successful citizen, a successful worker, is that they're able to learn these skills here in high school. I went to high school many, many years ago in the 70s. No young guy would ever go to home ec. It just didn't happen. And almost the same with some of the accounting math. Or I think today, my son, all of the 3 kids attended those classes here at Viroqua, and I think it made them better people. I think it made them more suited to be on their own, which they all 3 are on their own early on after high school, and they've all been very successful. I think they're very important skills, almost as important as the tech ed education that you'd be providing for them here. And I think it's important that you consider if you need to make cuts, finding it elsewhere, because then, as was said earlier, it's really a small part of your budget. And I think it will make a big impact on the young men and women that leave here, that they have a fully rounded education. Thank you.
Claire?
Sarah and I are coming together.
I was assuming that.
Correct assumption.
Which one would you like? Which one would like?
Shall we go first?
Okay. So I heard about the cuts last night at Cub Scouts, because I'm Claire's Cub Scout leader. I'm sorry.
Thank you, sorry. So you're recording.
Yep.
Thank you.
So I heard about the cuts last night at Cub Scout meeting, because I'm Claire's Cub Scout leader. Claire took FCS as a E2 student in 4th grade the second semester. And it was great, because she would come home at least once a week and tell me about all the things that she learned in FCS and all the things about stimuli being taught her. Claire and I talk a lot about development, things that are going to happen in life, hormones, and kind of how you develop, but not everybody has that or has that comfort level with their children that Claire and I have. So I tell Claire things as she's changing, obviously. She'd be like, yeah, I already know that. Mr. Mulvaney told me that. And so I think it's huge for her and for kids that don't get that, because not everybody has that level at home. We're really privileged, I guess, to have that level with Claire. And she does go to Montessori, and so she learned how to knit in class and how to sew, as did most of the kids. All the kids have made bears, they've done everything else, but from hearing the other people talk, those are skills that people get in high school also, that if they didn't take Montessori, they might not have it. And I think probably more than half your class likes knitting and like sewing, would choose that, as a choice. Hand knitting, Claire made us a whole blanket to hang out with at home. I was also talking to parents last night, one of whom homeschools her children, but did vote for the referendum because she believes in the school system and supporting all the classes that we currently have. So I guess concur with everybody else that says it's a huge difference to say we're going to keep the classes at the current level and then don't. And then teaching is not the highest paid profession, I think, as everybody knows. So to ask somebody to take a 25% pay cut and still stay at school is asking a lot of them. The cost of housing goes up, the cost of food is obviously going up with inflation and everything else. So it's just really hard to support your family if you take a 25% pay cut. All right, and Claire will now read her sheet of paper. You're going to be awesome, Claire.
My name is Claire and I'm in 4th grade. I'm in Miss Heidi's Montessori E2 class and in the middle school. I want to talk about some of the classes that have been really cool this year and why I think they're important. First off, I think you should keep FCS, which is Family and Consumer Science, as a special because, first off, the teacher, Mr. Mulvaney, was super nice. Second, we learned a lot of things.
No, yeah, you can read.
No, I don't want to.
Okay, that's fine.
This class is different than some of our other subjects and teaches us about life situations that all of us are going to have to deal with. Info systems is another great session, and we learn how to type, use computers, and technology. Knowing about technology is really important for kinds of jobs we'll do when we grow up, and even things like maybe having a business one day. All in all, I thought that FCS and info systems were truly amazing and very fun. Lastly, specials like FCS and info systems are one of the few times me and my Montessori school classmates got to spend time with people from the legacy school. It's a great way to build relationships across the different programs. We're all Blackhawks, and the things we do together are really cool. Thank you for listening.
We'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight and for speaking. The next item is the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes approval of agenda, proof of public notice, March meeting minutes, check summary 1 in the amount of $957,021.85. We have no retirements or resignations. We have no appointments. Policy updates. Dana did a fabulous job of reading those and explaining those earlier.
I was hoping she'd read it twice.
You could have had me again, but I didn't think it was necessary.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll say, go ahead, Matt, second.
Any discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is check summary 2. These are expenses related to health insurance.
Move to approve the check summary 2 in the amount of $284,788.98.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? In favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I abstain. Next is information discussion, donations over $100. We have Culver's, $328.03 for the National Honor Society Share Night. Culver's also $327.85 for the FFA Share Night. Viroqua Area Athletic Booster Club, $140 for the basketball senior banners. Culver's, $347.88 for the Source of Strength Share Night. Viroqua FFA Alumni, $2,153.55 to the FFA. We would like to thank our most generous businesses and donors for all that they do for our students and our district. We are amazingly fortunate to have all of that support. It's impressive every month how generous our community is. First reading of policies. Dana went through all of those very thoroughly. The revised and the rescinded, and that will be on our agenda for next month for approval. We have the 25-26 preliminary budget discussion, and we have Chris, who is at a conference, who's going to present virtually.
Of course.
Can't hear you, Chris.
We can't
Hold on,
hear
we
you.
can't hear you, Chris.
He's on.
Not muted.
Are you? No.
Volume on the computer is really low.
Turn the volume.
How about now?
Yes, I gotcha.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to quickly step through the materials here that I provided to kind of give you just a really quick overview of where we're at in the very early parts of the budget process. So the first 2 pages of this kind of explain revenue limit, how it's calculated, state aid, the levy calculation, and the mill rate calculation. These are all items that are pulled directly from our Baird budget model. Page 2 kind of goes over those calculations and adds some numbers to those as well. And I'll get into that a little bit more as we move along into the next couple pages here. So page 3 is going to be a kind of a high level calculation of the revenue limit. This is going to look similar to sort of the way this looks, when it comes to budget adoption time. The 24-25 numbers are the current budgeted numbers. And then, our very early preliminary 25-26 budget numbers as well. Couple of things to highlight within here. The state Supreme Court did uphold the governor's $325 increase to the per pupil revenue limit increase. So we will be moving from $11,325 this year to $11,650. You can see that our current projected average FTE is going to drop. That's in large part due to the larger senior class graduating. And then as we step down there too, and we're looking at non-recurring exemptions, you can see the addition of the $750,000 from the recently passed referendum. A guess on the voucher number, which we're all suspecting is going to be over $1 million this coming year. And And then near the bottom there is our state aid, which is going to jump this year significantly. That's in large part due to the spending from the referendum project. Flipping to that next page, get an idea of kind of where our general fund levies at, and then the additions of our referendum debt and our community service fund. So I'll explain those two pieces really quick. We did under levy in Fund 39, which is our referendum debt this year, and increase the levy in our Fund 80, which is community services, to pay off the debt on the ELC. That is happening. This next coming year, we will sort of reverse course there and get back to funding our referendum debt at its current levels. We're exploring some options to potentially increase that due to the increased state aid, as well, to bank some money for the future and be able to pay that debt off early. And then a significant decrease in our community service fund as well. Taking that from, at least right now, 1.2 million to $400,000 for our Fund 80 levy. So putting all of that together, that results in our mill rate increasing from $7.10 to $7.18. If you remember, the communication during the referendum push was an increase to $7.21. Next page kind of goes over kind of a high level, although it's really confusing and crazy to begin with, state aid calculation. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that and the different pieces of that, but you can see that increase from about 8.7 million up to 9.5. Next couple of pages go over FTE and head count. I just wanted to include those so you had a little bit of an idea of where we're at in terms of the potential drop in enrollment due to that graduating class and some potential changes, projections for open enrollment in and out. There's a couple pages back there. There's some graphs that kind of show our head count and our September FTE over the last few years, along with our open enrollment in and out numbers as well, and how that calculation works. Stepping along here, just the tax levy analysis, kind of talked about that a little bit already on the revenue limit side and the different funds and the levies in those areas, Fund 10, 39, and 80. With the mill rate at the bottom of that $7.18. And then the last couple of pages are equalized value. This is obviously one of those numbers that's going to make that mill rate change a little bit. We threw in a projected increase. We haven't done this generally in the past to keep numbers conservative, but a 3% increase in our equalized value. That's coming off of, an average of, maybe 12 and a half over the last 2 years. So that number goes north of the 3% we have budgeted. It will result in the mill rate being lower than that $7.18. And then just a few more numbers in terms of the dollar figure of the levy and then how that's spread out between our municipalities. That's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
The only clarification I wanted to make with the two referendums and one operational and one capital, obviously the debt has to do with the capital referendum, not the operational referendum, just clarification.
That is correct, yes.
And this is preliminary, and there are always changes along the way.
Yep.
We don't actually vote to approve the budget until September,
Correct.
the end of September.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any?
In October.
Yeah. What? October.
I think it comes out around 50.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Certified.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
Welcome.
District Administrator, referendum update.
Yep, so since this is the first conversation we're having since that time as a full board, Referendum update from earlier this month, 2,244 in favor, which is a 58.1% increase, and 1,615 votes opposed, 41.9% of that vote. So overall, quite a big swing from November. And I've talked extensively about that piece. So obviously very thankful, very grateful to our community for that support. Volunteer appreciation. This is the time of the year where we thank all of the volunteers that come in, whether it's for a day or come every week to provide support for our teachers and our staff or our students. And so we just should publicly give them a huge shout out for that support because it is so vital to what we do.
I would also like to add to the referendum update that we would like to thank all of our staff, our administrators, our board members, our community. There was a lot of work that went into passing that referendum, and we thank everyone for all that they did to make that happen. Administrators report, we have Krista with summer school. No, you might as well. We can't. I don't want to make you feel any different than anyone else.
All right. So summer school, student enrollment is complete now. So like all the fun begins now with putting the pieces together, which is my favorite part. We had to extend the fishing deadline just a little bit longer till the end of last week to boost those numbers, which it did. So now we're kind of balancing enrichment class numbers, and we can assign teachers, paraprofessionals, student assistants, that kind of thing. And working on finalizing some transportation details with Randy at the bus garage and gathering the park and rec information so that we can start making that schedule. So within the next month, it's going to be another lot of details going on, but figuring out where the classrooms will be, getting all the technology we need set up, setting up the duties, creating a park and rec schedule and the swimming lesson schedule, which has had great response, but it's just will be a big one to coordinate, getting kids here and there and to the right lessons on time. So that is my brief update, but the fun can now begin.
Any questions for Krista? Thank you. The programs look great. It's awesome. You've done a great job, and your team. Next, we have Jason, who's going to speak to co-curricular updates, prom, graduation, and honors program.
First, I want to thank Krista. If you would have called on me first, I would have just started talking there instead of asking if you wanted us to come up here. So we had prom last weekend. This is Subach's junior class advisor. Put in a lot of work. She helped her with it too. And if I'm going to guess, we had over 300 kids there. Deb Clark and I were taking tickets at the door, and they just kept coming.
Yeah.
Which was really cool. And it was a good night. Yeah, and stayed. It was a good night. DJ was great with us and everything. So it was a great event. Brent mentioned it a little bit earlier too. We had the Grand March at 9. Rustic Romance was the theme this year out at the Pedretti Party Barn. And the sophomore class is already booked there, and I think the freshman class is on their verge of booking out there too. So we try to book. We try to get in, jump before other schools get into it. So we have the honors program coming up. May 7th is the honors program. Some of you are on numerous scholarship committees. We don't have the final dollar amount. But for those that know, Ms. Schneider puts in a lot of work, not only meeting with the scholarship presenters, but also just organizing the event, doing the program, everything like that. Katie, having replaced Sue in the office this year, Katie's learning the ropes as she goes with it. But I'd be remiss if I didn't, on announcing Jenny's retirement, acknowledge her. And she'll probably be upset because I'll probably do it on our board tonight too. And she won't like that. But graduation's coming up. I think I had somebody, and it wasn't a student. I think somebody else told me we're about 4 weeks away from graduation, which is hard to believe. But it's being planned. Tom's putting a lot of pressure that we should be outside again, since we've been able to, snag the weather. Prom weather was great. Evidently every weekday as I transition into co-curricular, that doesn't necessarily been the case. We've had to cancel quite a few things, but hopefully we'll have another gorgeous day for graduation coming up. And if Beth hasn't asked the board members, we do need to figure out who's coming so we can make sure that we get you a nice flower for that day. Spring co-curriculars are definitely in full swing, weather permitted. We've had to cancel a few things, move some things around, but we have 6 sports going: baseball, boys golf, boys tennis, boys and girls track and field, and softball. As I think I gave this report Thursday, I think the baseball team was 6-2 at that point. Softball I think was 7-5. And the track team's already broken actually multiple records just this year. Some that have stood for a long time. So that's been kind of cool to see. And on the boys and girls side, records have been broken as far as track goes. So last Friday, for those that would pay attention, the WIA had their annual meeting. So they did pass legislation. Well, I don't know if it's legislation with them. They passed their ruling on NIL. And they also opened up contact days for sports. In the past, it was 5 days during the summer that you were allotted. And I think a lot of it actually passed by quite a bit. I think a lot of it was based on the thought of, if we're going to have the kids being trained or taught, why not put the coaches that should be some of them most experienced and well-skilled to do that with them. So that'll be a big change that we'll have to transition through, how to make that work and everything too. So that'll be interesting to see. Cross country was up. One of the debates was to eliminate the performance factor in cross country because it's a little bit more of an individual sport, and that actually did get voted down by the WIA membership. So I think that's all I have today.
Any questions?
What was that NIL ruling?
Wait, you're maybe get into it.
Sorry.
I was going to say, my Pat Edge, the issue, ask Ann type of thing, but I think it's, they're trying to, it's not the same as college. It's very different in that sense, and it's going to be a lot more restrictive. And for those that aren't aware, for WIA, part of the reason the WIA wanted to pass something at a time is to get more of what they thought should be in there before somebody told them what should be in there, type of thing. So it's realistically general with them, and part of the reason that it shouldn't affect a lot of kids. So but it definitely has it's changed the scope of things.
It's going to be a lot easier for districts to regulate now, to be honest. And so right now, a great example is our youth sports teams can't use our high school athletes on their social media pages to promote their clubs for which they help to, produce. And that's a piece where that is kind of ridiculous to say, hey, former club member so-and-so achieved this great thing and we want to, they do that, but they have to skirt around a lot of things before actually claiming that they were members there. And all of those types of things have been really, really hard to balance. And so thank goodness Dan is the one sorting through all that. The other piece, and again, it is not NIL like the college game, which has absolutely, in my opinion, destroyed that, the college sports. And so in college sports, it is a pay-for-play system essentially now, where large groups of very wealthy people get together and put to pool money for teams to use to spend to gain recruits. And that is not the case with this one. It is much more localized and much more a piece where, for example, if a varsity player wants to host a camp, they can do so now for youth members to come in and for them to choose to support that camp. Whereas before that was illegal because they were a WIA athlete.
Hopefully it'll streamline things and make it more common sense.
Yes.
Right. Common sense is really there.
Yep.
That's what common.
Yeah.
Any other question?
Thank you very much. Next, we have board reports. District Administrative Search Update. We hired Dr. Jeremy Hill. He will start July 1 this summer. we're very excited for him to be in that position, and the interview process went very well. He's moving here from Wyoming for the position, and he has family that lives in the area, and that's why they're moving back. But he's amazing. We will miss Tom. Tom has been fabulous, and he said he had to go, but the search process went well. Laurel High School update.
The governance committee had a meeting April 7th, and I was not able to attend, but the notes, they discussed end of year activities, the self-assessment, and rubrics. And the next meeting is May 5th at 3:30.
Kim, VAMS update.
VAMS, they hosted a celebration of learning, I think it was last week, and they raised over $1,200 for their parent group. They will have the website as part of the school website up and running soon. They can add in the pictures and everything. They're still working on a 501c and developing that. And that's all that I had to leave by the administrative reports. I don't know if Pat has anything to add to that.
No.
And he doesn't have anything to add.
Anything, Pat?
No, not a whole lot. Thanks for letting me join virtually. I gave an update on Act 20 and what that looks like. Tried to give a brief update, but that's kind of a big topic to give a brief update of, so that probably lasted 15 minutes after Kim left. But otherwise, nope, that was about it. Our celebration of learning was a really great night for parents to come in and see have the kids lead their parents through what a day in Montessori looks like. So that's it.
Any questions? Thank you. The next item is the WASB legislative update. And with that, there were 89 districts that went to referendum in April. There's over 400 districts. I don't know the exact amount, but I know there's over 400 districts in the state. So that's a very, 421. 421, that's a very large number of districts that went to referendum. Since the board, there were 9 districts that went to referendum. 1 district was a capital referendum, and then there were 8 operational. 4 passed, 4 did not pass. The Viroqua School District would like to thank our community again for passing our referendum. I just can't thank everyone enough for that. Now, this is some interesting information. The federal funding is essential to the Viroqua Area School District. This is something that has come out on a federal level. Federal funding for the Viroqua Area School District is $1,206,546. That's 9% of our total funding. We don't know what's going to happen on a federal level with that funding. Cuts to federal school funding jeopardizes $820,046, and that's from the U.S. Department of Education funding for 2025 to the Viroqua Area School District. $386,500 from the U.S. Department of Agriculture funding in 23-24 to cover meals for hungry kids. 9 educator jobs. The funding for the Viroqua Area School District receives from the USDE is equivalent to the cost of hiring this many teachers and education professionals. We do not know what this is going to look like for our district on a federal level. And I think it's important for people across our state to understand that and in our community. So I wanted to share that information. And with that positive information, consider a motion to move to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851C to discuss and take action, if appropriate, regarding employment, promotion, compensation, or performance valuation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility, specifically to discuss professional staff employment, including resignation, staff reduction, and the issuance of preliminary notice of contract non-renewal for individual professional staff members for the 25-26 school year. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Whoops, this is a roll call vote. Dana?
Aye.
Vicky? Aye. I vote aye. Kim?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
Matt? Sarah?
Aye.
And it is 8:50. And we are in closed session.
Yep.
Let's go to the bathroom.
Congratulations.